marketing masterminds discussions is uh, when I'm out there having conversations with providers and I see that oh wow, there is a real common theme out there that I'm hearing. And lately, I've had a lot of conversations with people about events, whether they be networking events that they're attending as a professional, whether it be exhibiting at a health fair or an expo, or it's sort of like, hey, Steve, my executive director says I need to do 4 webinars a month and or 4 live events a month. I'm having difficulty, getting a turnout. And so what I'm hoping that we can do today, and I'd love as much or as little participant engagement as you all would like to jump in on, but I hope that we can have a discussion that will explore all of these things that I just brought up. And let me share my screen because I got a little game plan for us here today. And feel free to use chat or Q&A to make comments, provide, and also, folks, a little bit different than our normal weekly discussions where we've got an audience of older adults, family members, and uh, professionals. Feel free to take Lynn's lead. Lynn is introduced herself. She's a senior advisor based in McMinnville, and I'm not sure where McMinnville is. Lynn, what state is that in? Type that in there. That's pretty cool. We have folks from all over the country that tune in to the Oregon. Oh man, this is awesome. So feel free to use chat to introduce yourself. Feel free to use chat to throw a question out. Feel free to use chat or Q&A to tell me I don't know what the heck I'm talking about and I need to shut up and let somebody else talk. Anyways, let me share what my game plan is for today. I'm Whenever I do these marketing masterminds discussions, I like to do kind of a quick overview of the positive aging outreach approach. We've been helping folks with their marketing and outreach for the last 35 years. And we sort of come up with a little system. And when I say system, it's just more of a way of communicating. So we're all on the same page. I'll do a quick review of that. And then we're going to talk first about attending events, primarily attending events as a professional in the field of aging, where you might connect with referral sources and things like that. Then we'll talk about exhibiting at events, and then we'll talk about organizing and partnering to produce your own events. And then any time remaining, we'll have an open discussion. We usually try to make these things about an hour, because that's about all anybody can take. Okay, so let's dive in here with this game plan. All right, so let me quickly review sort of the positive aging approach to marketing and outreach. The first sort of thing that I want to make sure that y'all know is how I view the world of senior living. Okay, I generally view the world of senior living in 3 different buckets. Housing options, these are places other than our own home that we're going to move and live. It doesn't need to say senior living on the outside. It could be an apartment or a condo in a walkable community. The second bucket is aging in place solutions. And in general, that's exactly what it sounds like, aging in place. So we've got villages, home care agencies, transportation companies, universal design and remodeling companies, a wide variety of people, organizations fall into that bucket. And then the last bucket I refer to is resources, and that's everything else. But resources, I want you to think of resources more as like aging life care managers, area agencies on aging. I saw somebody was online from Easter Seals, nonprofits that support decision making, Shepherd Center, things of that nature, elder law, senior move managers, daily money managers. And the reason that I'm sharing these three buckets is because each of us represent organizations that fall into one or more of these buckets. And we also give and get referrals from other people in these buckets. So just sort of using that as a definition. Now, the next thing that I want to share before we dive in to marketing events and talking about events is sort of my one of my goals when I'm coaching people through their marketing strategies in the senior living world, and that is low-hanging fruit and puts birds of a feather equals effective outreach. Now, how I'm going to describe what I mean by this when we get to the next slide, because basically we got three more buckets that are important. The first and the most important is our clients, the people that we're serving. The next bucket is the people that we get referrals from. And then the last bucket is who we refer to. And I'm going to go back here to the birds of a feather. What do I mean by birds of a feather? Well, we need to all have a pretty good understanding of who our clients are, who our referral sources are, and who we refer to grow our organizations. Because essentially, once you know who your clients are, and I mean really know who your clients are, then what we're going to do is we're going to just go out and get more clients just like them. Sounds pretty simple, right? It's not, but the first step is really understanding who your clients are so you can get more, who your referral sources are so you can get more of those, and then just keeping track of who you've been giving referrals to, because these are marketing and outreach opportunities. Now, so that's birds of a feather. So, if the people living in your retirement community are generally coming from a certain geographic region, they need assistance with a certain type of support services, and then each of them individually may belong to different churches, may have different professions, may belong to different clubs. These are all ingredients that help us find low-hanging fruit. So if today your home care agency signs up a new client who's a member of the Anytown Baptist Church, there's an awfully good chance that there are other people just like that at that Baptist church. And how can we engage and make our clients' lifestyle better by developing a relationship with that church, but then also use that to get more people just like the client that you're serving. So this is a very amended and quick version of what I refer to as the positive aging marketing approach. We may go back and refer to this when we dive into talking about events, okay? So I'm going to quickly go back to my agenda here. I just gave you a brief introduction to the positive aging outreach approach. Now, let's first talk about attending events as a senior living professional. So whether you're in Oregon or in the Mid-Atlantic, there are a variety of opportunities that we have as professionals to go out and network with each other. And the goal of going to these events there can be multiple goals, but let's just assume that today the primary goal is that I'm going to attend a networking event, whether it be the local networking group that's in your region, or perhaps you've got a chamber of commerce that has a senior living or healthcare segment, or maybe you're just going to a chamber of commerce mixer and connecting with other professionals that are in your community. Let me go through a few things to keep in mind, and then I'd love on this topic to have any challenges or questions that anybody might have, and then we'll kind of move to the different types of events. So my first real trick to going to events like this is to really know who your clients and your referral sources are. And one of the things that I hear an awful lot of is it's sort of like, oh, you're going to the networking event tomorrow. Well, what types of professionals do you get referrals from? And sometimes the answer is, oh, anybody that works with seniors. Okay. And most of the time, when I sit down with somebody that answers that question that way, we quickly discover that they really only get referrals from chiropractors, nursing home social workers, and aging life care managers. That they don't really get referrals, direct referrals from everybody that works with older adults. And one of the approaches that I have found to work really well for the organizations that I work with is to be very candid with the professionals that you meet at these meetings and let them know exactly who you get referrals from. And so one of the approaches is getting to know quickly. And how this can work is that, let's say that I go into an event, and the first person that I meet is a realtor. And I meet that realtor and I say, hi, I'm Steve from Shady Acres Home Care. You don't refer to home care agencies, do you? Now, that's like very hard for any person in sales and marketing to say something like that, because we think that everybody has the potential to refer to us. But what I'm doing there is, because I get referrals from chiropractors, nursing home social workers, and aging life care managers, those are my 3 top referral sources. I'm basically making a statement to this realtor that I'm gonna tell her who I get referrals from, or him who I get referrals from, but I'm saying you don't refer to home care agencies. Now, what I'm hoping that he or she is going to say is, oh no, I just referred somebody to home care last week. In that case, I just paid a realtor that I could develop a referral relationship with. But more than likely, if they're not on my list, they might say, wow, how did you know that? Well, I get referrals from chiropractors, nursing home social workers, and aging life care managers. Let me tell you a little bit about my organization. And what I've seen happen in situations like this is where that professional that you're talking to says, wow, my husband or my wife is a chiropractor. Give me your stuff. I'm going to help you set up a meeting. And that is one of the main things to think about when we're going to networking events. It's not always meeting a direct referral source, but it's meeting enough people that know who your direct referral sources are and helping make connections there. So when we're attending an event, think about the profile of your client, the profile of your referral source. Think about who will be there. And sometimes if you're joining a new group, it may take 3 or 4 meetings to figure out what the profile of this group is. But here's the other thing about going to 3 to 4 meetings consistently is that we joke in our business of senior living that there's this revolving door where people are changing jobs quite a bit. It's very important to be consistent in front of an audience that you might get referrals from or that you may connect with. And so there's nothing the matter with just, okay, I'm new to this job, I'm new to this region, I'm going to join these 3 groups, and I'm going to make a commitment to go to these meetings for the next 6 months, and then I'm going to evaluate after that. be prepared. Like I'm often surprised when I'm coaching people through this at people how many times professionals are just sort of, you know, they're kind of on the cocktail party circuit, and they're not really thinking strategically about, what are some things that I could use some help with, and how can I sort of engage and follow up when I go to this networking event. And the other bullet point that I want to share is just always leading with how you can help somebody else versus how they can help you. Sort of, the phrase killing with kindness might be in line for this one, and that, leading in with, hey, I would love to help you do X, Y, or Z, or I'd love to help you get more referrals. Tell me what the profile of your clients looks like. And usually people are more open when they see that you're engaged and interested in helping them, and then sort of listening to how they can help you. Now, I'm not doing a good job of this right now, but try to speak in sound bites. Practice kind of short sound bites and waiting and letting your colleagues there reflect or ask you a question. That's always good. And the other thing that again, it kind of speaks to being prepared is to always have a follow-up strategy, no matter what event you are going to. Be ready to respond as quickly as possible to everybody that you meet there at the event. I used to be much better at this, but right now I got a small pile of business cards on my desk, and I put them right there by my computer. And what I love to do is when I collect a business card is just, boom, that evening or first thing in the morning, do a nice follow-up. It's really amazing how when other professionals see that you are responsive, that how that trust is much greater, in that, they're visualizing, wow, if this person followed up that quickly with me, if I give them a referral, they're probably going to be very responsive there as well. Okay, let me take a break because I've been babbling. And let me just run through chat real quick and make sure that you guys aren't booing me off the stage, or if there's any questions. Okay, I'm psyched that everybody is introducing themselves. I see a lot of familiar faces, familiar names, but I love that we got people from all over the country tuning in on this. And let's see. Lynn asks, has anyone here attended a senior expo with a booth? If so, did you find value from meeting other senior professionals, or did you get any clients from the expo? Well, Lynn, that's next up on my agenda, but I would love to have others that are in the audience share any insights that they might have on that question as well. Let me keep on scrolling down, make sure that there's no other questions. Oh, I see that Paula is responding. She says, Lynn, there's lots of value in connecting with professionals. It is important for mutual referrals for the seniors so that they know what services and yes, I've gotten clients. And Paula, let's see, Paula, share what business segment you're in so that others that may be in the same segment would know. So are you a financial planner, home care, what have you? Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Trish, I'm going to make sure that everybody can see your intro there. Oh, Trish Hansen. Okay. Okay. Paul is in dementia care and telehealth. Okay. And Ray says yes and no to Expos. Margie says some events and resource fairs are more effective than others, in my opinion. Use caution in loading the table up with tchotchkes. Oh man, Margie, I'm so glad. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Kitty is asking, what are you sending in terms of follow-up from professionals that you meet? Okay, Kitty, I'm glad that, hey, J.G. Giordano, man, one of my snowboarding and skiing buddies there. Okay, let me answer Kitty's question about how I follow up from a professional networking event. But then I've also coached other clients on this as well. Is that and part of this is, think about yourself attending an event and with a bunch of people, and you're passing your cards out to everybody and you're collecting your cards, and you get back from that thing and you're wiped out, and you throw the cards on the table, you have a nice stiff drink, or go out and go on a run, and that whole event is in the rear view mirror. But I want you to imagine an email arrives in your email box the next morning, and it's sort of like, hey, Kitty, this is Steve from Shady Acres Assisted Living. We met briefly at the networking event yesterday, and I know I dumped a lot of stuff on you, but here's a few links to the key things about my organization. Now, where you can really have fun with this is that, Kitty, if I was talking to you at this event and we were talking about a universal design company, or an article on aging in the New York Times, throwing that into the mix is great. And then lastly, and I think is most important, is if y'all haven't signed up for Calendly or one of these calendar scheduling programs, I urge you to do it, mainly for follow-up like this, is because the last thing that you can finish with, it's like, hey, if you'd like to schedule time with me, here's my calendar. I would love to meet with you. And that's kind of, that served me. It served a bunch of the folks that I've helped well. And, but more importantly, it makes it really easy for the people who you're connecting with at any given event. Okay, so I forgot her name, but there was somebody there that was talking about exhibiting at expos with tables, and that's sort of next on my list. I also see we got Alan Spiegel from the Beacon, who does some senior expos in the DC area, and I'm sure he'd be happy to share with you some details on those types of events. But okay, so exhibiting at events. Now, there are lots of opportunities for us to exhibit at events. There's things like what the Beacon does, where you pay a certain amount of money and you get a table, and they're gonna, have X amount of people coming into the venue, and who may or may not be interested in what you have to promote and talk about. There are health fairs. There are churches that do free events where you're not paying anything. They give you a table. Hospitals, there, in the fall, we move into open season, and a lot of employers will create opportunities for us to go and exhibit. And one of the main reasons that I'm bringing this up is that oftentimes I'm meeting with a company, and they are like, man, I'm never going to that event again. And it's sort of like, well, why? I didn't get any response, and took a whole day out of my time. And and oftentimes what I find is that the real problem is that they're going in with unrealistic expectations. They're going in without a plan, and they're definitely didn't come up with follow-up and some metrics that they're going to use to monitor the event. So, and let me bring up another example, because events, I gave you a wide variety of events. Okay. And the other thing about events is we could have a snowstorm or a rainstorm, or there could be a backup a multi-car accident that prevents people from get there. It could be a beautiful day like it is today in Washington, D.C., or it could be a horrible day that for whatever reason, people don't show up. But I remember years ago, I had a provider that said to me, man, I had horrible results at that event. Nobody showed up. Well, I was at the event and I saw that they didn't have much attendance. But quite frankly, I thought it was one of the best professional networking events that I'd ever been to. And that's one thing as senior living professionals that I tell people to always do is go in with your strategy for the end consumer and how you're going to communicate, what you're going to be offering them, what a good target lead looks like, but then also go in with a strategy for how am I going to connect and network with the other exhibitors that are here, and then the other senior living professionals that couldn't buy a booth or didn't get in time who are going to be walking around. These events can, even an event that nobody shows up to, can turn into an amazing networking event, okay? But it requires an open mind strategy, what have you. So first question to ask is, why are we here? And a lot of times, the reason that we exhibit at these events is that, we get some promotion that says, get in front of 3,000 professionals at the, at the Armory this weekend and, buy your booth. All right. Now, we're all trying to get in front of prospects, but here's one piece of advice that was given to me many years ago, and I thought it was very accurate, is that if today I told you that if you stand on the corner on Main Street, and you just stand there, give me $50, you will meet 5 people that are interested in your business. I think just about everybody would say, heck yeah, I'm going to go there. I'm going to stand on that corner, Steve. And if I don't meet 5 people, you're going to give me back my $50, right? And instead of saying, stand on that corner, 3,000 older adults are going to walk by, and 5 of them might be interested in your services. The important number here is not 3,000 people that are walking by your booth. It's, I'm going to go somewhere on a day and I might meet 5 prospects. And so I try to get people to think about that is that, why am I going to this event? Like, think about what your best day was, as a marketer or outreach person. How many good prospects did you meet in one day? Chances are for most of us, and I'm not talking about Expos, I'm just talking about a normal day, picking up the phone, responding to emails, 5 or 6 good leads in a day that you didn't, buy from some mailing list. That's a pretty good day. And so think about that when you're sort of framing your goal. Now, the second thing is budget. And, this may be a show that there's the price of the table, but there's a lot more that goes into the budget than just that. It's the staff that's going to be there. It's the tchotchkes, which I'm not a fan of, but we're going to talk about that. It's, we're looking at a picture on the screen. You got a tablecloth, you got all this type of, marketing propaganda. Perhaps you got transportation. There's food, things of that nature. There's a lot that goes into the budget, but it's a good idea to keep an accounting of this, because really what you want to do at the end of the day is have some metrics that says, okay, my total cost for exhibiting at this event in 2024 was X dollars when I factor in materials, time, the costs, travel, you name it. I ended up walking away with 3 really good leads. I take that number, divide by 3. That's my cost of acquisition. And now you can compare that against some of the other paid marketing efforts that you've got. And okay, so, and I bring this up because sometimes a church or an employer will say, hey, we're going to give you a free booth. And our assumption is, oh, yeah, this is free. But a lot of times there's costs that we don't factor in. Okay. What defines as a lead? I'll use like a retirement community as an example, is that, looking, and this is where you go back to your profile and you're sort of like, most of the members of our community live in any town, and they're a certain age. They are, not married, and they're solo agers, and they have 2 or 3 grandchildren, and having fun with some of those lead questions can really make your time at the show more effective. Now, one client that I worked with many years ago, through the process of brainstorming, we realized that most of their I forgot if it was a retirement community or not, but the bottom line was they were centering everything around the fact that most of their clients were grandparents. Not all, but most. I mean, like 85%, let's say. And so that was their lead-in question, was grandchildren. Hey, do you have grandchildren? And the people walking by the booth, instead of, hey, do you want to move to Shady Acres? It's like, hey, do you have grandchildren? And they basically would ask a few questions. But then the other thing that they identified is, we really want to invest in people that are grandparents that are in the same town as our retirement community. So through the process of whether they had grandchildren or not, it's sort of like, now, where do you live? What town do you live? Do you live near your grandchildren? And when it was identified that they lived near their grandchildren, they had this little stuffed animal that they would go get from behind the table. And they'd be like, hey, well, Mrs. Smith, it's great talking to you. Do you think your kid would like this stuffed animal? And the stuffed animal had a T-shirt that had the logo of the senior community. And why I'm sharing this story is that they define the lead, and then it was also a follow-up strategy, because they would get a phone number or an email when these folks would get this nice stuffed animal, which cost a little bit more than the pens and those types of tchotchkes that they normally would buy. But it gave them an opportunity to follow up, and it's sort of like, hi, Mrs. Smith, this is Steve from Shady Acres. Remember, I'm the guy that gave little Johnny the stuffed animal, and it engaged them in a little deeper conversation. And again, that sort of touches on my next bullet point there. How memorable are we going to be to that lead? I mean, I think one of the things that we don't realize when we go to these shows is that there's 150 other booths there. And, if we do have the opportunity to follow up with folks, how are we going to be memorable? And that's why I just shared that stuffed animal idea. And then we talked about it earlier, but having a networking approach, you don't want to network with people when they're talking to people at their booth, but before and after and in any slow parts, that's when, get out there and start doing some networking and reflect back on your referral buckets and your profile buckets. Whew. Okay. I'm babbling here, man. So let me jump back into chat and see what we got here. And then just so you know, our next, after this, I wanted to talk about, if we're organizing an event, like let's say that you're a community, or let's say your organization wants to host a networking event, talk a little bit about some of the issues there. Let's see, Margie says, we've used used books on the subject of caregiving, or having the talk, driving, selling the home with your older relatives, and done drawings. That has been successful at some of the events. Yeah, talking about door prizes and things of that nature. Again, back when actually here, I'm going to scroll up because some of this stuff is out of sequence. All right. Lynn says, I like using digital PDF, a book from National Institutes on Aging. They offer free books. Yeah, as a giveaway. One of the things that, and again, this is not a commercial for Sourcebook. You could be NIH, you could be AARP. There's a lot of nonprofits and organizations out there that have giveaways that you can give away at your booth that are actually valuable to folks. So like the benefit of something like Sourcebook or the NIH thing that Lynn referenced is that you're engaging somebody at this event about, a question about dementia or something like that. And it's sort of like, oh, I've got this NIH book. Or let's say that you're a home care agency and you're at a show and somebody starts asking you about assisted living. It's sort of like, hey, there's a list of all of them in the Sourcebook. Here, let me give you a copy. Now, whether it's Sourcebook or NIH, what I recommend is staple your card, staple your brochure to all of this stuff. Because what I want to have happen when you're giving my thing out is that they don't need to call me to get a new copy or a copy for their next door neighbor. I want them calling you, at your booth. So good one there, Lynn. Okay. Lynn also says Calendly is the best. Yeah, folks, Calendly is a free, it's a free website. You can see it on the bottom of all my emails. And it's awesome it minimizes that dance of trying to schedule an appointment with somebody. And it makes it easy for somebody to book a phone call or an appointment with you. Let's see, Margie, right now, I think you're going to get the gold star today. Margie says, I wouldn't say give no goodies out, but I have recently, as March, been to an event where all the people wanted to do was get a passport stamped, proving that they'd been to the tables and grab as many of my goodies as they could. And here's I helped a large hospital system do a case management expo this winter, and we tried to instill a no goodie giveaway policy. It was somewhat successful. We basically said, hey, look, if it's a goodie that is the cost of a pen or less, you can give it away at your table. But what ends up happening when we load up our tables with all of these goodies? Yes, we might create a memorable table where somebody is like, oh, yeah, you were the guy that had the magician pulling things out of a hat at prizes out of a hat. I remember you. But what we're basically doing is just thinking that somehow that I'm going to pick up this pen with your logo on it. And, 6 months down the road, I'm like, oh, geez, I'm looking for Shady Acres Assisted Living. Here's their phone number. I can kind of see it there. It doesn't necessarily happen, and I think if you think about what you're giving away at your event it's an opportunity to tell people how you can solve a problem. And if they walk by the booth and you don't get a chance to do that, them coming and picking up a pen and talking to them briefly and then politely nodding their head doesn't necessarily, I don't know if that's going to make a difference, but think about being strategic with your goodies and giveaways. Okay. And if Lynn says, and if anyone has Milky Way Dark, I'll visit that table several times to be a team player and eat them. Yeah. I mean, candy, cookies, we have all been to shows where literally the people attending the booth turned their back and somebody came by with a big purse and dumped all the dark Milky Ways into their purse and made a run for it. And there's an easy way to minimize that happening. It's sort of putting material out or creating a gatekeeper type program where you got to come and talk to me. You got to spin a wheel and you might get some kind of prize. But from a budget perspective, you could buy 5,000 pens that you're just going to have people pick up and give away, or maybe you buy 100 stuffed animals with your logo on it, and now these are handed to somebody who you have engaged them in some kind of conversation. Okay. When I worked for a home care company, I purchased a tabletop dollhouse with furnishings and dolls on my table. More people visited my table than you'd think. I'd love to make one with adaptation. Holy cow, Margie, man. What a brilliant marketing idea there for a universal design company or home care company. Brilliant. That's what I love about, guys, I'm not an expert. I'm just trying to be a facilitator and throw out ideas to get these great ideas like Margie just threw out. Lynn says, has anybody tried a giveaway at Expos? Lynn, I think so many people are giving out, like books are a great thing to give away. And you'd said that you've got a book coming out called Senior Solutions. And I agree. Don't just give it away. Make sure that, there's some kind of qualifying element before you just drop that book into somebody's bag. It's sort of like, they have to chat with you a little bit, and then you can say, hey, would you like a free copy of my book? But instead of leading with, would you like a free copy of my book? Like, talk about some of the problems that your book solves before you offer the free book. Hey, are you having a hard time evaluating whether you want to age in place or make a move? Yeah, me and my wife are thinking about that. You might like a free copy of my book. Here, give me your email address and I'll drop it in your bag. Something like that. Okay. Paula says, I was at an event. The author did give away her new book. She was also the speaker at an event, and she collected info from the guests. And, we're going to talk about organizing our own events with speakers. The best speakers to get are people that write books, because they've researched a topic deeper than many of us. Okay. And even if that person that wrote the book is in business as a consultant, or they've got a business, speaking as an author and not the owner of a business gives them much more credibility. It will give more credibility to your audience as well. Okay, I am looking at, I try to engage people and identify, Tricia says, I try to engage people in identifying their needs. Anything specific that brings you to today's event. The great tips here. Oh, let me copy Tricia's so everybody can see that. And then I'm looking at the clock and I see that we're almost to the top of the hour. So I want to talk a little bit about hosting your own events. And then I would love feedback on today's discussion, y'all. And if you want a follow-up or what have you. Oh, let me try this here. Let's see what this looks like. All right. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is organizing or partnering to host your own event. And whoops. I apologize, folks. I'm sharing my screen. Okay. Organizing your own events. Okay. Now, this is the main reason why I decided to put this discussion together today, is because a lot of times I'm meeting with professionals who's like, my boss says that I need to organize an event. My competitor is doing all these events, so I guess I should do one as well. those are compelling reasons why you should host an event. If your boss tells you to host an event, well, you better host an event, okay? And if your competitors are doing it, it might be worth exploring to see if events are working out well. But but we want to be intentional, okay? And we want to go over and above. And like everything that I was talking about before, keeping track of, like, state the goal of why you're doing it, write it down on a piece of paper, and you know, have some goals on, hey, today we are having this event, it's for the general public, and or the next month we're having an event for the general public, and our goal is to get 3 to 5 leads out of this event, and that's why we're doing it. Like, put it in writing so that at the end you can come back and evaluate all that, and also keep track of how much time was involved in planning this event, how much money is spent. That includes food, even if it was coming from your own kitchen. These will all be metrics that can help you evaluate and refine and get better and better if you continue to do events. So why am I doing this? Who should attend? And what do they want are really some key things that we all need to be very intentional in designing our event. And those lead into the content of the event, which is usually where folks call me in to say, hey, Gurney, you know, can you help us brainstorm on this event we need to have in the fall? And those 3 questions you see on the screen are usually what I throw out, and we write it on a whiteboard, and then we just throw up as many ideas as we possibly can to figure out, you know, how are we going to make this a valuable event for the attendees that are going to come, whether they be professionals or consumers or even friends of the residents, you know, okay? Now, I will share with you, like, and I've actually had this conversation a couple of times where somebody might say to me, it's like, man, I've been doing some events. I feel like I got really great content, but the turnout is not very good. And the first thing that I will ask them is, well, can you give me a list of the events that you've hosted in the last year, and how many people and who attended? Because armed with that, I can give you some good advice on what you should do in the future. The unfortunate thing, and this is why I'm sort of reiterating how important it is to keep metrics, is that if you're just sort of like, oh, I think we had 20 people, and I think we had a couple of social workers there, and then we had some prospects. A lot of times what I found is that when we really dig deep, that some of these events that didn't go off that well were actually worse than they even imagined, because the people that were in the room were largely the employees of the organization and friends and family. Now, that I'm all into having multiple calls to action, that's a great opportunity to turn it into a team building thing that those employees are going to be, you know, really happy about. And when they do their end of year HR survey, they're going to be thrilled that, you know, they got to see, you know, participate in that event or what have you. So thinking about the content. And the other thing, and I've heard this from multiple senior living communities, so it's not any sort of trade secret, but, you know, sometimes we think that our content needs to directly relate to somebody moving into the community or what have you. But, you know, some of the most popular events that have drawn crowds at communities across the country are things like shredding events, or turning in your electronic devices, or or like a custom car show. You know, and the client that I'm thinking about, who was concerned about the events they were hosting is the reason they were concerned is because all of the elder care related topics that they were advertising got low turnouts, but then, the car show and the shredding event got a huge turnout. And the other thing that I need to remind all of us, and guys, I'm in this business too, is that most people don't want to talk about the things that we talk about. Like, whenever I give a speech and there's people there who came because we're going to talk about senior living, I always say, hey, I want to give you all a big round of applause to be brave enough to come here today and listen to these topics on senior living, death and dying, advanced directives, this, that, and the other, because most people aren't as brave as you. And so think about that. I call these Trojan horses. Can you get somebody to your community or to your event with a shredding or headshots or something like that is not necessarily related to elder care, but then we get them there and we might be able to engage them in a conversation that makes them see that that this could be a good choice for them. Okay, I got a few minutes left. I think another problem that I see when we're organizing our own or partnering on events is not a long enough runway for to cultivate an audience, especially if snail mail and a direct mail campaign needs to be involved. It's setting a long runway. It gives you an opportunity to beat the drum, to get flyers up at Starbucks, to, engage your social marketing and what have you. Pop-up events these days can work, but in general, pop-up events work relatively well for online events and webinars. So maybe you have access to a really good speaker that you can get in 3 weeks. Instead of trying to scramble to get them live, make that an online event, send it out in your email and your social media, and you're liable to get a bunch of people there. And then what you might even do is use that online event as, hey, in January, we're going to have Professor Smith back. Again, communications is key, the before, the after, and most importantly, the follow-up. I love it when I go to an event and literally the next day, there's something in my inbox that's thanking me for being there. It's reiterating some of the points that that I may have not jotted down because I was having so much fun, especially if it's a networking event, and gives me a point of contact so that if I wanted to follow up with that organization that hosted that I could do that. And again, why this is important, it's the analysis and documentation that we need when we're on our next calendar trying to figure out what we're going to do next. Okay. Holy cow. I burned an hour. I didn't expect to talk this much, y'all, but this is just what happens when I'm there. Okay, I'm looking to make sure that we don't have any major questions here. Again, folks, I hope you found this helpful. I don't think there's any marketing experts out there. And I sort of bill myself because marketing is about doing things differently. It's about taking chances. It's about making calculated risks and making you and your organization stand out from the box. What I'm doing today and what I try to do most of the time when we do these marketing masterminds is just drop a bunch of bullet points out there of the problems and the challenges and a few solutions that I've heard. Again, if we all ran out and had a magician at our booth, it's not going to make that event. None of us are going to stand out at that event. And so I hope that I triggered some ideas here. I see you guys are really blowing up chat and sharing some resources. That is awesome. I will get the whole chat transcript recorded and everything on proaging.com this afternoon. Has anybody here ever exhibited on behalf of hospice? Do people steer clear of what you can share? Hey, Trisha, I will tell you, I mean, from talking to dozens of people that worked in end of life and hospice, this is a topic, no matter how creative we get, there's a percentage of folks that will steer clear, no matter how creative we are. But you know, there are some there's some ways that we can let me kind of share one of our positive community champions that was featured on the cover of Sourcebook last year. Capital Caring has an initiative where they give away robotic pets. And I think for an organization that's primarily providing hospice and end-of-life care, something like that is a really great initiative. And it's a great initiative at an event or something. You see this robotic pet and you're talking about it, and then all of a sudden it's sort of like, well, you know, I know this might not be the easiest thing to talk about, but we are a hospice and end of life and just want to make sure you're there. But we've got this initiative. We give these robotic pets to people with dementia and to kids with cancer, the whole 9 yards. But not just hospice. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we're talking about, folks, people don't want to hear it. And we just got to be creative to engage in that dialogue. The phrase that I've heard every day of my 35-year career, and I'll hear for another 35 years is, oh, that's really nice, Steve. I'm not ready yet. And trying to make it safe to connect. I love the death cafes when we're talking about end of life. But again, you got to be brave as heck to go to a death cafe. But once you get there, you're in a safe space to talk about death and end of life. Okay. All right, y'all. I'm looking at the clock and I got another meeting that I got to go to. I love it that you showed up today. This has been fascinating. Feel free to email me. Feel free to use Calendly, schedule time on my calendar. I love to brainstorm, and we'll see you at some of the meetings that we've got later this month. And then after